will remember in 2014, he challenged Band-Aid and the essentialism of Africa and turned down Bob Gelt's invitation to re-record Do They Know It's Christmas in support of the Ebola crisis. And this had a massive impact. It's not economic, it's not political, but it's speaking to the narratives that have a very negative portrayal of the continent. And similarly, Fuse and his team have been using their platform in the diaspora to build a school in Ghana and also Jamaica, which is all about creating positive change for future generations. Fuse, like many second and third generation Africans and Caribbeans, struggle between Africa and the UK. And I think in the world that we live in, because of globalization and transnationalism, many of us consider ourselves translocal. We have multiple homes. Home is both the UK, home is both Ghana, it's South Africa, it's the United States. And home is not just one place. We can have home in multiple places. And I think also the rise of new technologies, because of the rise of new technologies, there has been a compression of both space and time. And we've seen the emergence of various online communities which are both spaces for Africans and those within the diaspora. For example, I'm a co-founder of an online platform called Bankroll, which is all about exploring Africa, the Caribbean, and diasporas through travel, storytelling, and education. We have contributors from across the African continent, across the Caribbean, and also here in the diaspora and also in America. And I think platforms like this are really important in terms of creating a global African diaspora community. Ultimately, I'm advocating for a broader notion of Pan-Africanism, which encompasses Africans everywhere. We all have a right to claim the space and to contribute towards positive impacts in Africa, regardless of our location, but because of the commonality that we all have African ancestry. Thank you.
So I'd like to introduce Njoki
Thank you, Aisha. I would like to start with a quote in Kikuyu. Now that Halima challenged us about our languages, and my worthy colleague and comrade started with an Igbo quote, but unfortunately that comes immediately to my mind. But I have one from Frantz Fanon. And Frantz Fanon said, each generation must, out of relative obscurity, discover its mission, fulfill it, or betray it. So which generation are you? So the independence generation, the Nnamdi Azikiwes, the Nkrumahs, Kenyatas, and all those people who went to Manchester in 1945 mobilized many other African people towards nationalism and to independence. And of course, after that, we say there was a lull. But what's our responsibility? And I'm not saying that, of course, there's this argument like, who said we need to do anything? But we can't keep here complaining. And I love the quote you've given us by Ijeoma. I'm too foreign for home and I'm too foreign for here. So we need to just decide, and I agree you can make impact anywhere, but I certainly believe you can make more impact at home. And I'm going to draw my argument, I'm going to use a society that I co-founded that I'm very passionate about, the Black and Tabs Research Society. And I'm happy with my colleagues here, Nafisa, where I knew, okay, she's not here, and Surel, that we've been doing a lot of work and in curating the achievements of Black students who came to Cambridge and have gone on to achieve many things. And I want to talk about some of those people, and so that you can see the impact that you can make. It's not a lie. And I'm sure, I have examples of others, of course, who've stayed here, who have made impact, but I believe, using my examples, some of these people have done so much that we now stand on their shoulders. And the Black and Tab Society, we founded it in 2015 with my colleagues to start curating great achievements of black people, because as we know, we don't even know who was in Cambridge, what did they do? And maybe that's why we want to stay here, because we don't even see others in our past who did anything. But in 1945, a woman called Gloria Kampa came here, and I'm glad last week we had many of you African black women do a photo shoot to celebrate 70 years since Gloria Kampa, the first black woman to study in Cambridge, and she was from Jamaica. And Gloria came here, and after studying, she went back to West Indies. The University of West Indies is the whole university from most of the islands in the West Indies. They set up the law faculty. And today that law faculty is a testament to the work of Gloria Kampa. If she had stayed here, she actually married an Englishman, but she still convinced him to go back to Jamaica. And they set up the University of West Indies and the law faculty. And most of the work that has come out of that is a legacy of Gloria Kampa. In the same, and you can imagine she was there in Garton, and in 1947, Efua Sutherland from Ghana was at Homerton, the first African woman to study in Cambridge. And many of you Ghanaians, not just Ghanaians, how many have heard of the play Edufa? Yes, Edufa. Edufa is one, I'm starting to be corrected, Joshua, as somebody in literary studies, but I think it was the first work of drama that is the most, that was read across Africa by an African. So, because of her literary legacy on the continent, and not just her literary work in terms of drama in the creative industry, she created spaces, not only in Ghana, but also around the continent, in offering in spaces that could train people in literary studies and drama. So when we consider Osman Sembele as the father of African film and drama, the mother is definitely Efua Sutherland. If Efua remained here, and she would probably just be an old woman somewhere in London now. Or maybe she would have done great things, I'm sure. I'm not being nasty, but she definitely created a legacy. And of course, the first Nigerian woman, Felicia Banjo, who was in Union College in 1949. And she celebrated her birthday last year, her 90th birthday. Because of and she's the first woman professor in Nigeria, Felicia Banjo. And because of the work Felicia Banjo did in information studies and library studies, again she mentored so many generations of women. Because if you don't see somebody like yourself, you will not think it's possible to be a woman professor. You will not think it's possible to be a computer scientist like Loretta said. So you must see another person so that you can say it is possible. And that's why we need to go back to the continent to offer that space for people to think, actually, Jockey did it. It is possible. And so many other examples I can give. James Ezaino from my college, Queen's College, 1955, is considered the father of mathematics in Nigeria. Am I wrong, Nigerians? James Ezaino, from Anambra State. He came and they went to set up the Academy of Mathematics, and also did publish so widely, and was vice chancellor in many things in Suka, and did a lot for mathematics. Somebody I'm really passionate about, Thomas Othiambo. If any of you have heard of the African Academy of Sciences, Thomas Othiambo came to Queen's 1950, 55, left in 59 or early 60s. SIPE, the leading research centers now it used to be a research center, but it's now many things, was set up by Thomas Othiambo. And right now it's like the equivalent of NHRI here, the leading health research center. So because somebody came and got the top-notch training and went back home, immediately he went to the University of Nairobi Department of Zoology. And he knew what it is like. As you can imagine, in a racist space by then, we are still complaining about microaggressions today. What about creating spaces in Africa where people feel they belong, and they don't have to be dealing with these other issues. They're just thriving. You know, of course there are many other challenges, but they're also dealing, they don't have to deal with those kind of things. So all these people I'm speaking about, the other day, many of you went for the conference, Africa Cambridge conference, and you saw Chibale, Kelly Chibale from, what's his name? Kelly Chibale from Zambia. He set up the first drug discovery center in the whole of Africa, and he's working on two drugs. You know, and yet all of us are still coming to Cambridge. He came to Cambridge, he studied at FIX, he did his PhD here in chemistry. So there are so many. The Professor Msuli who spoke earlier, look at the work he's done. Again, came to Cambridge, studied at Selwyn, and now he's advising, he's informing, you know, the African Development Bank and so many other places. He's creating impact as an economist. So, and of course the person who inspired me to come to Cambridge, Susan Kerako. I met her a couple of years before I came to Cambridge, and I thought, the first person I thought, oh, Cambridge is possible, because I'd seen somebody like me. And she came back, she's gone back home, and she has set up the first Afrocentric school in Kenya. Those of you who know Kenyans, we are very British. So, setting up an Afrocentric school where people learn. You know, kids can learn the different ethnic languages, dressed in their African fabric. I've met many Kenyans who tell me, I do not like those West African clothes. They look like curtains. You know? So, this is somebody who's, the uniform of that school is actually African fabrics, of African design fabrics. So, unless we go home, of course we can create impact here, but I think we have more impact at home. And of course, I'm leading from, I'm also doing that by joining a university in Kenya, starting this fall. So my worthy opponents, it's all good to send remittances, Carol, I'm all good with that. But if you really want to make any impact, JR Biotech has to go to Lagos.
Well, thank you so much for coming abroad. So now we're going to have 7 minutes for the leaders from both ends. So we have Dr. Chinedu as a leader from home, and we have Professor Lina, leader. And we also have some supporters for both teams as well. Okay?
Alright, so I would, great, thank you so much. I mean, we all welcome. Nobody can know African other than myself, even though I'm here. Just to make that point clear, but we're all here. There's a reason why we're all here. So first of all, I'm evil, like Chile. I may not be able to really match that adage, but I was saying exactly you join with my thought somewhere in the ring to fight. But I will tell you, this is also the notion. Nobody's fighting. We're not spectators. Nobody's fighting. It's the fighting attitude of taking things by force, and it's also keeping most of us here. If we had a government that functions, if we had an infrastructure, like for instance, I'm a scientist, I get all the training, you're here, you've been trained excellently. Why did you train in Nigeria? Okay, so we go out there to do science and we don't have labs, we don't have handheld iPads. We have nothing really much, especially in Nigeria. Maybe Kenya and some other countries are doing well. But we train African scientists through my foundation. We bring about 20 outstanding PhD students from almost 7 countries in Africa. The person in Nigeria is going through the issue of someone in Sudan. The same Kenya problem is no infrastructure, we don't have that equipment, no funding for research and capacity building. And also just to let you know, you mentioned about the doctors being trained up in Nigeria and Ghana. No, I think they were given the foundation in Africa they trained abroad. For instance, in America, we have many doctors and nurses. Most of them actually went to school in Nigeria or most African countries. They got the foundation, but they didn't get the training. Okay, I did my undergrad in Nigeria, and microbiology science student, and I did not see a handheld pipe, which high school students use here for a long way. When I went to Georgetown in the US, I was like fish out of the pond. So I trained there even though I had my foundation, but the foundation also had a problem. So we're not saying home is not good, home is the best place to be. But if you don't have the resources, you don't have the capacity, you don't have the infrastructure, where do you start from? And Jeremy is going to be a faculty person. I'm going to hear you talking about Kenyan politics and the government and how they're not really giving you the funding. You'll get to something like PhD funding yours. Why can't that go to fund our PhD? Why Money has to be involved. We need partners with my primary University of Cambridge. We get them to say, this is the problem in Africa, I want to school there. So don't get the ATC fund just for area research with high impact projects. Why not go down to the universities and put a laboratory for the students so that Africa can have their own scientists and be able to conduct quality world-class research. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carol. That was very interesting. So, Professor, would you like to conclude tonight? Okay. Okay, Dr. Chilling.
I actually don't know what I'm talking about. I'm supposed to do the work. But the good side of it that Carol is my sister, we would agree that we're equals, right? So it's good that we don't need to agree with Carol. But I'll try and comment on some of the points you made. First of all, in my, I don't know how much you understand Igbo language, right? But in the same Igbo, if they tell you an idiom and explain it to you, then we should take the right part and take the wrong. So the point I made about the ring, come inside the ring and being expected, I can explain it to you, you're my good friend, so I'll probably won't take the power to be my friend. So the expectation is that it's either you are in the ring participating, the people outside are just you are watching. So those outside the spectators, they pay money to get in the stadium, right? That's contribution, that's the remittance. But the key thing that they ask is that the people fighting, the active players are in the ring, and they are the ones that will win medal. So I didn't tell you to come in and fight and actually give me an injury and I'm not. We talked about doctors not being trained in Nigeria. I went to the University of Ibadan. As I said during my school, I said, I don't want to talk about the quality of education. I was trained in Ibadan as a vet. Most of my friends here, they are practicing. I don't even know how the NHS system works. You just need to come here and write foundation exam. It doesn't mean anything. Some of my fellows that exam while they were in Nigeria, you just need to fly back here, write the exam, and they get into the system. It's all making machines for us. So yes, our system is not the best, but the key thing is that we are qualified as medical doctors, and we are working here. So that's something that was paid for that education is being utilized in this country. So whether the quality of education is a problem, the key thing is our qualified medical doctors. Then on Bill Gates funded education, he's a great man. This is wonderful. But I don't know if you know, that means they're not trying to bias him. That means they had a professorial chair in the University of Kano as of now. Kano didn't go back to Nigeria to go and pick up that professorial chair. Then let me comment on remittance. You did mention earlier that the diaspora is according to what Bank will release 35 billion in 2015. What Carol didn't tell this audience is that those people that release 35 billion, they return 15 billion in the West. That's why I'm thinking which one is more. And I just mentioned money. I haven't talked about the knowledge value and the intellectual capital that is also retained in the West. The other part Carol didn't tell us here is that within that 35 billion, that 11.4% of that 35 billion is used as processing costs by banks, money transfer. Who run all those money transfer? Western Union and the rest. Their headquarters in London. They pay tax in London. They pay tax in the US, and their Londoners and US citizens who run those places. How do we get them? So we actually don't get our 5 billion. Part of it are still here. Then you talk about you making part Carol. I respect so I'm a big fan. You bring down the first 20. Carol, let me give you a good example. Andela is in Nigeria. How many people do Andela employ? So many people. Compare it to the fact Carol, like you are an institution. Move back to Nigeria. You don't need to bring 20 people. You will turn 20. You will turn a village into becoming proper scientists. I believe in you and I need to become one. My friend here talked about the glass ceiling. I'm not very politically correct, so you have to accept my fault. There is a glass ceiling in the West. Even in the way I have a green passport, I'm a Nigerian. I don't have a green passport. And this is very particular to the first and second generation. I feel your sympathy. Some of you, I grew up in Nigeria, so many people are born here. But I can tell you, you are in a better strategic position to do better, to grow faster in your career in Africa than here. There is a definite glass ceiling in this country. And I will make a bold statement here. The day a black immigrant becomes a prime minister in this country, I'm happy to donate 10% of the salary I was earning. Then I think one thing again we need to consider is the cost effect of African diasporas. So we keep talking about this remittance and everything. You are intellectual capacity. You are intellectual capacity and we are listening to you. Let's go over. These are home, whether you want to talk
Thank you so much, Dr. Shinobu. We only have 2 minutes for supporting debaters on both sides.
Okay, listening to the debate, I think you still, there is, what transpired is that you are still backward looking and we are forward looking in the sense that, it seems that we are more strategic than you are. For example, just a couple of weeks ago, I had a conference, a roundtable meeting with some ministers in the Congo, but I did it via Skype. So I was present over there, but without actually being physically there. So it is possible to be abroad, but still make an impact back home. I was glad also that Joki mentioned those very interesting people that have done quite nicely. All the names, in fact, that you mentioned, have all started here, abroad. So, and they've been able to make an impact back home. But those that have been successful in making a big impact back home had the infrastructure. For example, the University of the Western Indies, I know quite well. You know, there is an infrastructure to actually welcome those kind of developments. But there are some other countries, like for example, if I was to do a similar kind of attempt and go and do the same thing in the Congo, which I am trying to, it's more difficult. And the reason why it's more difficult is because we are not seen as quiet contributors. We are seen as loud contributors. A bit like the insults that you sometimes get when you make a political comment, joking. So you're the revolutionary one that you are. Okay, so education is a very good point. So education is a very good point. But the strategic side of things as well, you know, if you are from Nigeria, that's about 10 years ago. So I think there was a census made in Nigeria of the population of Nigeria. And I think they've realized that actually it was less Nigerian in Nigeria, according to the statistic that they previously thought. It's because most of the other Nigerians were abroad. And as a result of being abroad, suddenly, thanks to that census, Nigerians become a bit richer as a result of that situation. So clearly, being abroad is not a problem, it's a strategy. And it's a strategy that can have a positive impact back home if it is used wisely. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Miller. So I'd like to introduce Professor Joki. I'd like to introduce Charles to come and debate his side.
Alright, so I'm sorry that we're not getting the better looking version, but you have me. So, I think the first thing to say is all of the points I've heard from our fellow Africans here and our Caribbean sister are correct. At the end of the day, there are Africans in the diaspora who are finding a way to make an impact. But I think we've got a serious question to ask ourselves, which is, what will our generation be known for in moving forward our continent's battle? Right? We've had the generations before us who have struggled for independence. We've had the generations who have left the continent and upskilled themselves, our parents to some degree, and struggled to get us the education and the weapons to operate and to fight for our regions. Now we have to ask ourselves, what are we doing to move the conversation forward? Our colleagues here mentioned that they were forward thinking and we were backward thinking. And I can understand why they may think that. But we also use Skype on the continent. Remember, on the continent we call each other with Skype. We use WhatsApp and various other things. But we have a huge opportunity in the sense that there has never been a time such as this where one, it's in vogue to be African. Two, we have tools, even with the lack of infrastructure that may still remain in certain regions, to actually be able to do things and have reach. and work with people in various other regions. What are we doing with that? On remittances, I think the challenge I have with remittances is I'd rather have them than not. But we have to ask ourselves, it's a whole number that often gets communicated, 35 billion, 40 billion. What happens with that cash? Do we know what contribution it's making to businesses at home? Do we know what contribution it is making to creating infrastructure and creating industry? In many cases, that capital is non-strategic. It goes into the hands of individuals. It almost acts as another form of aid. If we could create structure around capital, which is flowing from outside the continent inside, imagine what we could do with that. The continent has a disproportionate number of corporate organizations. This is why we do not have stable jobs for people. This is why people cannot plan for employment and what they use for their capital. So I'm getting science. The final points I want to make are around work, and I think our colleagues here alluded to Fuso Leaching and various others, and what I call brand Africa. There are a lot of important things which are happening for building the African brand outside of the continent. These are the things which open the gateway for our partners outside to trade with us, to do work with us. But at the same time, let us as Africans be respected for the quality of our institutions, for our economic abilities, not for what we do to demand respect outside. Let people respect us for wanting to do business with us in the same way that they would with the Chinese. On that note, thank you.
Thank you so much, both home and abroad. So right now I'd like to give a chance to the audience to ask their questions, and we only have 10 minutes for that. So, I'll just ask.
Thank you very much. I'm aware that our final keynote speaker has entered the room. Please give a round of applause as we see he has sat down. The Honourable Minister, Haji Mohammed, Minister of Immigration and Customs of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, said you are most welcome. I know you are itching and ready to speak, and we look forward to hearing the appeals of Nigerian and African wisdom. But before that, let's get some brief contributions to this particular debate, home or abroad. And when I say brief, I really mean it.
My name is Samuel, and I'm very happy to be here. I think the debate was very interesting, but we cannot expect after such a debate to have a common solution. What I mean by common solution is sort of home versus abroad. Everybody home, nobody abroad, or everybody abroad, nobody home. And that was what we were all trying to convince us that we should all go back, trying to convince us that some will, I don't think we have to expect a common solution. We have to go through, we have to think of the sort of interior solution. Interior solution is very important. I should say it's something completely personal. We should know that there are many opportunities in Africa. We should be aware of that and take our decisions considering that aspect. So let's think of interior solution rather than common solution. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much indeed. Yes. Okay. Straight to the point, please. No introduction.
Yes. So my comment is just not taking sides, but commenting on sometimes both sides. So I will comment based on the principles of self-satisfaction and self-actualization. I think following what we were trying to say, personally, I would derive self-satisfaction and self-actualization if I was able to impact my local community, so back home. But again, an average African will find difficult in, breaking through the very tight and discouraging system to create such an impact. So that is where now our fall to where, going abroad, which seems to have more opportunities to start with, will create an atmosphere where you can always send remittances. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Closing thoughts? and are saying that. I'm thinking about gender and diversity as well. Men. Come on, let's have some female voices in this part as well. Okay. Guys.
Hi, my name is Victor. I'm not taking sides as well. What I think we're leaving out is the strategy is actually transient, or it could be transient, because 10 years ago, it might be strategic for me not to move home, but now it could be strategic for me to move back home. The reason why I'm saying that is I study engineering and I study here, along with a lot of African classmates. Most of them moved back home, and some of them are working in good places. Some of them are doing nothing actually, because it wasn't strategic at that point. You did mention there are about 35,000 Nigerian doctors in UK and America. If all 35,000 moved back to Nigeria at this time, we won't be complaining of brain drain. We'll be complaining of brain waste actually, because there's no facility actually to accommodate them at this time. So it could be strategic for them to wait maybe in the next 5 years or in the next, when the time is right. So I think it's uniquely dependent on individuals. If we all move back home, there's no facility or capacity to accommodate us at this time.
Thank you very much. Okay, this is the final point on the floor.
Thank you. I think someone mentioned the social-cultural aspect of this problem. And I think that one thing that we failed to talk about is changing the mindsets of people back home. And I think that's something you come to outside, you have to be on the ground, and live with them on a daily basis in order to make an impact in a way that they think, and the mindset, the social issues that they have to deal with.
Thank you very much indeed, Aisha. I'm going to hand back to you. Just some people are gesticulating wildly. Yes, thank you. You've got the message, Aisha.
So it's just briefly summarized. We've heard that we need people to be on ground. We've heard that we have to learn from the mistakes of others. However, this debate is not about winning, or what side is better, or what side is not. But we just want to know, we want you guys to leave with it, knowing that we have to make an impact to Africa from wherever you are. And I'm all about proverbs, and I'd like to end with this important proverb that I think will make a difference. A wise person will always find a way. So, thank you so much for listening, and thank you, debaters.
Thank you.